One of the quotes I gave last time was the intelligent use of natural remedies or herbal remedies. And so that means there's an unintelligent way as well, right? If there's an intelligent way, there's an unintelligent way. So hopefully we'll show you the right way here today. And, you know, I used to teach physiology, which was called applied physiology. Anyone heard of applied physiology? Which is very different than what you get taught in medical school. Medical school, they just teach you the structure and function, but they don't teach you the application. So applied physiology is studying physiology in order to learn how to apply it, how the laws of health are affecting our physiology and how changes that we make are going to bring us in harmony with that. So we're told those who study physiology and hygiene will, in their ministerial labor, find a means whereby they may enlighten others in regard to the proper and intelligent treatment of the physical, mental, and moral powers. Therefore, those who are preparing for the ministry should make a diligent study of the human organism, that they may know how to care for the body, not by means of drugs, but from nature's own laboratory. So the more we study physiology, sound applied physiology, the better we'll be equipped to know how to use God's remedies in an intelligent way. The use of natural remedies requires an amount of care and effort that many are not willing to give. Nature's process of healing and upbuilding is gradual, and to the impatient it seems slow. The surrender of hurtful indulgences requires sacrifice, but in the end, like the Chinese bamboo tree, it will be found that nature, untrammeled, does her work wisely and well. Those who persevere in obedience to her laws will reap the reward in health of body and health of mind. So this is the biggest reason why people don't use natural remedies, because it requires a little bit of effort and it requires a little bit of time. Now, not all nature's remedies are slow acting. In fact, we teach emergency remedies when people have a heart attack or stroke or hemorrhaging. Critical situations, we can still use nature's remedies, but for chronic disease, it does take time. And so these are some of the, I've actually already shared some of these things. How many clinical studies were done on herbs when Mrs. White wrote about them? 0. The answer's up there. Okay. All right. How many clinical studies were done when Jesus rose from the dead? Yes. If we went by clinical studies, would people believe more in creation or evolution? Yes. Now, I'm not saying it's true science. Okay? Don't misunderstand me, but clinical studies aren't, people think that they're done in a vacuum, that people go in with unbiased, ideas as to what's going to happen from their study, and it's all, legit, above board, there's nothing can go wrong, and any study that's a double-blind study that you can repeat will actually show its validity, okay? Now, by the way, double-blind studies, they've done studies on double-blind studies, and they found that you've got a 50% success rate in duplicating them. So 50% of the time, they're correct. Okay. So the reason you do clinical studies is to get funding. That's the reason. Okay, so doesn't matter who. That's why at the end, always at the end of a clinical study, is the statement: we need more studies to ascertain if this is true or not. Okay, so give us your money. So just be aware about that. So Inspiration is above double-blind studies. So I filter studies through inspiration. And if double-blind studies show the same results as inspiration, then it doesn't prove inspiration. It just proves it's valid. Okay? But inspiration is always above science. True science will always line up with inspiration. And when you've got everything harmonizing, then you can be sure it's correct, right? So some people elevate science above the Bible, and we should never do that. In fact, the Apostle Paul warned about that. In the last days there'll be false science, or science falsely so called, right? So things to keep in mind when you're doing herbal research is that drug companies do a lot of clinical studies on herbal products and produce a biased slant. And it's always the case. It's no exception. Make sure that there's no conflict of interest when reviewing the study. That includes studies from herbal companies. Keep in mind that even the best studies are only given probabilities and not certainties. Understand that clinical studies are undertaken to get personal or institutional funding. Don't take double-blind studies as irrefutable evidence. Make sure you understand the limitations of the study and read the whole study before you jump to conclusions. Here's an example. So back in the 1980s, we had 4 clinical cases worldwide of comfrey seemingly affecting the liver, okay, because it has what we call pyrrolizidine alkaloids, which in an abundant form, in an isolated form, can cause some damage to the liver. So they've done studies on rats, and they injected rats with high amounts of pyrrolizidine alkaloids from comfrey, and they found that their liver became mutagenic, or leading to cancer development. And so the conclusion of the study is that if you're a rat, you don't want to be injected with large amounts of pyrrolizidine alkaloids from comfrey isolates. That's the conclusion of the matter, right? Okay, but it doesn't mean that comfrey is going to destroy your liver. Do you get the point? Okay, so we take a study and then we can make a whole theory on it, and it's completely taken out of its original context. When I was in Michigan, I had a herb shop, and it was illegal for me to sell comfrey. I could sell marijuana, but I couldn't sell comfrey. I'd have to meet someone in a dark alley somewhere, to give them some comfrey. But anyway, just take these things with a pinch of salt or a pinch of comfrey, however you want to take it. But it can also be a problem with herbal supplements. So there was a study done by the Attorney General, DNA tested herbal supplements, and they found that 79% of the supplements didn't have any of the ingredients listed on the label. Okay. There was only 4% of tested products from Walmart contained plants listed on the product labels. Okay. Some of these big box stores, do not get herbs from them. I'm telling you, it's a Russian roulette. Some of the herbs, in fact, even have some drugs in them. And be careful of herbs from China. Okay, there's a lot of, look, it goes anywhere there's money to be made, there's corruption to be made, right? So it doesn't matter if it's a supplement or a drug or some research paper somewhere. If money's involved, there's always an element of corruption that can take place there. So let me tell you, the best way to do it is grow your own herbs. Get a little herb garden going in your backyard, right? That would be the number one thing I would, if you've got any plot of land anywhere, grow some herbs. You only need 10 feet by 10 feet. You could grow 100 different herbs, and you could have enough supply for a family of 4 all year round, just having 10 by 10 square foot garden. Yeah, and I would encourage you to start with herbs that are culinary and medicinal. So you can use them for your food, but they have high amounts of medicinal properties. Things like basil or thyme or oregano, rosemary, turmeric, garlic, dill, things that are high in medicinal property. Oh, sorry about that. I'm going backwards here. Oh, I didn't give you the principles. So herbs must be preserved to maintain effectiveness. So if they're like several years old, you don't want to use them because, they're just destroyed, right? So if you go in the health food store and you see these herbs in containers, the light's already destroyed the phytochemistry of the plant. So, I used to have containers that I put in my herb shop, these black containers that suck out oxygen, so the herbs are always fresh. But underneath, I would put a little, because they couldn't see what's in there, so I would put a little container and put a magnet on it to hold it in place, and people could see the herb. But after a few months, the herb would be like pale. It would be pale because the light would destroy the properties of the herb. And so if your herb has lost its color, it's lost its taste, it's lost its smell, it's lost its medicine. So keep that in mind. Herbal teas and extracts are the best way to take herbs because they go straight in the bloodstream, do not require any digestion. Herb dosages vary depending on the herb used, the weight of the person, form they are taken in, and the condition of the person, which I covered before. So natural remedies are not a cookie cutter. Okay, that means that one size doesn't fit all. Okay, that means you have to understand the cause of the problem in order to rightly address it with the right type of herb. So, there are thousands of different causes to stress, right? Right? Isn't that true? Could be the grandkids. Could be the bills, the mortgage payments. It could be the job that you have, right? It could be I don't know, the places you're going, the pressures that are on you from work or family. There are many different causes, right? So there are many different plants for stress too. We call them adaptogens. You can take rhodiola, you can take ashwagandha, you can take ginseng, eleuthero root, you could take mushrooms like reishi or shiitake. You could take even some berries, adaptogen. You could take holy basil. There are many different types of herbs. So how do you know what herb to use for what condition? You have to understand the cause of it. If you understand the cause of it, then you can be more specific to applying the plants that are good for that particular cause, right? So that's what you got to do. You got to figure out the cause. If you don't know the cause, find out the system it's in, right? So if you have an insomnia and let's say you wake up, say you're a lady in midlife, wake up at 3 o'clock every day, you can't get back to sleep. It's usually hormonal. So you'll take a herb that's specific to hormones. All right, so find out what category it's in, what system it's in, and then work on using things that help with that. So natural remedies can't harm you, right? Right? Okay. Well, that's not always the case, unfortunately. I'm sorry to say. A lot of things are natural that hurt you, right? Yeah, like mercury's natural, lead's natural, death is natural. Okay. All right. We better check you out. All right. So, get some sniffer dogs in here. So, I often have people call me and they say, I want a detox. I was like, well, what do you mean by that? You want to detox your colon? Do you want to detox some parasites? Do you want a heavy metal detox? Do you want a bowel detox? Do you want a blood detox? A lymphatic detox? What do you want? Oh, I just want a detox. So any detox should not cause these problems: headaches, migraines, bloating, stomach, pain in the stomach, dizziness, heart palpitations, weakness, pain. We got pain again. Discoloration of skin, disorientation, diarrhea, back pain, pain again, nausea, vomiting, insomnia, extreme hunger, exhaustion, or emotional distress. Okay, so you shouldn't have to go through a period of recovery after a detox. Okay? That's not working with nature. What should a cleanse do? The idea of a cleanse should be to return the organ or system to its natural, normal function by providing it with food or herbs that are conducive to that natural condition. The cleanse should never make the organ or organ system do something other than it does naturally. Excesses and extremes are rarely beneficial to the body. Just keep that in mind. Because I see people going through some horrendous stuff. You know, I had this lady contact me one time. She said, I'm going to do a 40-day water fast. 40-day water fast. 40? 40. Yeah, 40 days. You know what happens when you get to 40 days. Jesus, look, if you're Moses, in the presence of God, you could get away with it, but, just a normal person, you're on death's door when you get to close to 40. So, don't do anything silly. I remember many years ago, someone gave me some wheatgrass juice, and I had it, and I was like this lady. I was on the floor, just hugging my stomach. I was so much pain. There's no reason for any cleanse to cause undue discomfort. You should be able to go about your daily life and activities while cleansing. If your liver cleanse has curled you up in the bathroom floor, moaning in agony for half the night, it's probably doing you more harm than good. I remember I was at a church 2 or 3 months ago, and we have some people that like to do cleanses in our church, and one of the elders stood up and he said, I had all this junk food when I was younger, and I caked my innards, and I was getting a little belly going, and so I decided to do a cleanse, and so he did this cleanse, and all these balls came out of him. Yeah, so he was doing a gallbladder cleanse. So he shed all these balls coming out, and then after his testimony, then another girl who was doing the same cleanse, she stood up. She's only like 19 years of age. She said, "Oh, I did the same cleanse, and I had dozens of these balls come out." And so I said to him after, I said, "So tell me, when you had these balls, did they go to the bottom of the toilet?" And he implied there was just some went to the bottom, some to the top. I said, "Well, it's not stones. Because if it was stones, they all go to the bottom." Yeah, he said, "Well, what caused it?" And I said, "Well, it's probably saponification." You've heard of saponification? Has anyone here made soap? If you've made soap, you've been involved in saponification. So you get an alkaline, right? And mix it with a fatty acid. So you get an oil, there's a fatty acid, and you mix it with an alkaline like lye, and you can make soap. Well, you can do it in your body as well. Yeah. You can do in your body, you can make soap in your body, and it come out. Yeah. Actually, it's the high potassium in the lemon. Sorry, the lemon mixed with the olive oil that can cause saponification. And so you can end up with these balls. And they come out of you, and you think you flushed them out. You had this cleanse, but you created them. Yeah. So I hope they don't see this video. Because I've got to give them a health lecture next month. So I'm just anyway. So anyway, yes. So be careful. What comes out? It may have gone in. Okay. So here's some red flags. Okay. Avoid cleanses that advertise a quick fix, that are so extreme they require preliminary steps to condition your body to prepare for the shock, require restoration or replenishing or recovery of your digestive system, require significant decrease in calories, put stress on your body or mind, eliminate whole food groups that God has given us to enjoy, or counsel you to abstain from exercise, drinking enough fluids, or are intemperate in nature. You know, one of the most common things that are recommended now in fasting is what we call dry fasting. Anyone heard of that? You don't drink water even. No water, no food. Just dry fasting. It's insanity. Yeah, can't even brush your teeth. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, I showed you that property, you know, in Philippines we were at, and we had dozens of lemon trees, and I didn't think you could overdo lemon juice. So I would drink like 2 glasses of lemon juice a day. And when I would do that, I would have a UTI, because it would alkaline my urethra and allow bacteria to come up through the urethra and give me a UTI. And I didn't know till I stopped doing it that this was causing my problems. Now, I'm not against using olive oil. I'm not against using lemon juice, okay? But understanding physiology will help you to understand there are limitations to what we should put in our body, even if it's good, right? And there's definitely some things you don't want to mix together either. So don't do a detox that promises you to lose weight quickly, eliminate toxins, rid body of gallstones, cleanses the liver, increase energy and vitality. These are the promises of this detox program, sorry. That you'll lose weight, eliminate toxins, rid your body of gallstones, cleanse the liver, increase energy and vitality, and look at that, removes debris from the brain. Isn't that amazing? Boy, couldn't we all use that? So, all right, so I got to remove some debris from my brain right now. Yeah, so how might a liver cleanse cause side effects? Okay, so this is a website actually. It says, depending on the recipe one follows, cleansing may have different adverse effects. For example, a lot of individual cleanse their livers using olive oil. When consumed in excess, this may have laxative effect. The following symptoms are possible for some people to experience after a gallbladder cleanse. So here's some of them. You have diarrhea, vomiting, nausea. Okay. Okay, so you could have headaches. Okay, diarrhea for 24 to 48 hours. Everyone likes that, right? Nausea, vomiting, headaches, gas, fatigue, dizziness. All this good normal side effects, right? So this is one of the most common detoxes online. You want to hear it? Okay. It's all natural. It's all natural. So relax. It's all natural. So you have the ease in. So you're getting adjusted to it. So day 1, salad, soups, smoothies, juices. Not too bad. You can survive a day of that. And then day 2, soups, smoothies, juices. Day 3, 1 liter of orange juice. And then you add 2 tablespoons of maple syrup for extra calories. And then for 10 days, then you go into the 10-day diet. You want to hear that? The 10-day, drink 8 to 12 cups of lemonade. This is a day for 10 days. Okay, with fresh lemons, cayenne, and maple syrup. Is that what it says? Cayenne and maple syrup. Drink as much water as you want. This will help you feel less hungry. Don't exercise. You're too weak. Okay? Then, all right. So the end of that, you're now into 2 weeks now. You've done 2 weeks of that. And then after that, you have an ease-out diet. So 1 liter of orange juice. Fantastic. Then the next day, fruit or veggie juice, phenomenal. Then we have day 3, or which would be day 17, raw fruits and vegetables. Okay, now you get into the real stuff. And then day 4, or day 18 in this sense, will be regular diet. So imagine going through that. Okay, so look at that here. It says, add lots of probiotics because the diet wipes out the beneficial bacteria in your gut. So now you have to take probiotics, okay, and then you'll have to use a strong laxative every day to induce your bowel movements. Since you're not getting any fiber in your diet, this will halt peristalsis. The recommended method is a saltwater flush. 2 or 3 hours of intense cramping expected. Okay. When I was in Australia, there was a local sanitarium that did saltwater flushes. And they would get 2 liters of water, and a third of that was salt water. Okay, now there's 5% of salt water is salt. Okay, now you can die off of 50 grams of salt because it would disturb your electrolytes so badly. So when you put this stuff in you, your body wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. So you'll have an intense explosion in your bowels. Okay, yeah, it's like sandpaper. It's just shoots it out. And so this is the method for getting your bowels working again. After, it's like, it's just crazy, isn't it? You come from one torture to another in the name of health. Okay, all right. All right, let me ask you a question. Does the liver store toxins, yes or no? Who says yes? Put up your hand. Who says yes? Yeah? Who says no? Put up your hand. Who doesn't know? Put up your hand. Okay, for some honest ones. Okay, you may be surprised here. The liver does not store toxins. It converts toxins to water-soluble substances. So the liver doesn't, if you put a drug in your body, for example, it has to go through the liver. The liver converts that to water-soluble substance and flushes out the urine. So it doesn't store the drug. It metabolizes the drug and gets out, okay? So there's not a reservoir of toxins in the liver. And the reason I'm mentioning this to you is because a lot of people think they have to do this liver flush, liver cleanse. But the thing is, the liver is cleansing. It's not what it needs, it's what it does. You with me? So we don't cleanse the liver, but there are certain things that can help the liver, but not in the sense of detoxifying the liver, okay? But they can aid it. For example, there's certain things that can help reduce the inflammation in the liver. It can help reduce liver enzymes, which cause cell death. It could help with increased bile flow. It could help with protecting against free radical damage, or what we call reactive oxygen species. So there's certain things that you can put in your body that can have a protective effect, but it's not cleansing the liver. The liver is doing this all the time. What about vitamins and mineral supplementation? I have a lot of people I talk to that they're on mega doses of vitamins, and it just makes expensive urine. Very expensive urine. Some people's urine are several $100s a month. That's how expensive it is. Yeah, into mega doses like vitamin C. Your body can only metabolize 500 milligrams of vitamin C at a time. If you start putting in super heavy dosages, it will actually impede the immune system. It will affect what we call phagocytosis, which is your white blood cells' ability to engulf bacteria and viruses. There's a limit to how much you can put in your body. There's a law of health that goes through every other law. Does anyone know what that is? It's called temperance. Right? You can have too much exercise, not enough exercise. Too much sunlight, not enough sunlight. Too much food, not enough food, right? You get the picture? All right, so temperance goes with everything that's good, right? So we don't believe in moderation as it's commonly taught. You can have a lot of bad things in moderation, right? We want to be moderate in that which is good. We want to abstain from that which is harmful. So anytime you put in your body something in excess of what the body needs, it becomes a burden to the body, and the body has to get rid of it, right? So same with supplements. You just don't want to overdo it. Same with even water. There's a lot of people that do. You've heard of colonics? You put 5 gallons of water up your bowel, 5 minutes. 5 gallons of water in your bowel. Not a good idea. Yeah. Yes, well, it's possible. Yeah, so here's the thing. There's a valve in the body called the ileocecal valve. It connects between the small and large intestine. It's got a one-way valve. It's like a door. It opens one way. Okay, so it opens the way the food goes. So it allows from the small intestine to large intestine. It doesn't work that it shoves things from the large intestine to the small intestine. And the reason for that is because you end up with dysbiosis, which is a bacteria being in the wrong location. So you don't want bacteria that's designed for the large intestine to be in the small intestine, right? So you put 5 gallons of water the wrong way, coming at a large velocity, large volume, and guess what it does? Pushes the door back the other way. It moves that valve back the way it's not designed to go. And then you end up with all kinds of problems. And then plus you end up with diluting the electrolytes. People with heart rhythms, this is bad news, okay? And then you can perforate the bowel on top of that. And is anyone here like anyone looking up sensitive areas of their body? It's not. God uses humble methods, but he doesn't humiliate us. You understand the difference? Yeah, so God took Naaman to the waters, to get a hydrotherapy treatment 7 times. And he thought he had better waters where he was. But God didn't use a colonic to heal him from leprosy. You know what I'm saying? He could have embarrassed. He could have told them, strip off all your clothes in front of your soldiers, So he doesn't humiliate us. So God's methods are humble without being humiliating. And so I could share more stories about this, but it just shows you there's a lot of things that are natural that we use the wrong way, and then we end up with problems. Okay, so that's why we need the intelligent use. What about essential oils? Now, essential oils are really good. They do a whole bunch of things that, in my opinion, not many other things do. They're very good topically. They're very good for breathing. But there's a lot of people go to these seminars where sales reps tell them you can take essential oils internally if it's pure stuff. If it's therapeutic grade, you could take it internally. And they start taking it internally. I got to get one of those as well. So they take these essential oils internally, and then they have problems. I've seen people with kidney stones from taking a few drops of oil. I've seen people in the ER from taking 4 or 5 drops of oregano oil. So do not take these oils internally, even if they're therapeutic grade, because they're not designed for your GI tract. They're very concentrated. They're 1,000 times more concentrated than in nature. They do work in their place. Yes? You don't recommend oil of oregano? Well, oil of oregano is different than essential oil of oregano. So there's 3 different types of oregano. So oil of oregano you can take because it's a carrier oil. It's not a volatile. These are volatile oils, so they're highly reactive. Okay. And then yes, there are properties. There are amazing properties, we're told, life-giving properties in the balsam of the pine, in the fragrance of the cedar and the fir. There are other trees that are health-promoting, but they need to be used correctly. Okay, essential oils are powerful agents when used in the proper place. And if you look into the statistics of the what's it called now, Poison Control Center, you'll find all the disasters happen with essential oils when people take them internally. Should not be used internally at all. Hydrotherapy. Now, hydrotherapy is very good to use. All right, we use hydrotherapy, and it's fantastic using hot and cold treatments. And if you ever get a chance, do some training in hydrotherapy. You'll be amazed on how many conditions you can help with just a little bit of knowledge of hydrotherapy. But water can shift the blood, okay? Applied topically, if you know what you're doing. But there's a right way and a wrong way, like every way, right? Every good way, there's a wrong way as well. You can abuse the system. So, you know, for example, you don't use long cold, right? Why is that? Because the cold, when you put it too long on the part of the body, it will shunt the blood to the internal organs. Whereas if it's short, like 30 seconds to a minute, it will stimulate the white blood cells into that area. It will actually facilitate better distribution of blood. But if you have it too long, it will enervate and it will lead to congestion. All right. Remember Dr. Kellogg? There are men who make a specialty of treating the rectum. This is colonics right here. And some feel they've been greatly benefited, but I have been instructed that this treatment, as well as many other surgical operations, leaves with a many serious weakness. By the way, Dr. Kellogg believed, that all disease originated in the bowel. That's what he believed. So he designed treatments around that philosophy, and one of them was colonic therapies. Okay, anyone heard of black salve? Black salve is often used for treatments of cancer. I do not recommend black salve. I'll tell you why. Black salve has high amounts of zinc chloride. It will necrose the skin. Okay, yes, it will. So if you think you have, let's say you have a bump, somewhere, and someone tells you, some quack tells you that you have cancer. No diagnosis, just, opinion, right? So you think you have cancer. So then you hear about, I need to take some black salve, put it on there, and get rid of cancer. So what will happen, you put that on your skin, it will necrose the skin, and it will make it appear that the cancer is coming out of your body, but it's caused the problem. Okay. And to your untrained eye, you think cancer is being pulled out of your skin, where it's self-created. Okay. And then it falls off, and you think the cancer's gone. Right? And some of this is permanently life-changing. You put this stuff on your face, you'll be scarred for life. Yeah. You gotta be... But it's natural, right? It's all good stuff. If a herb or plant has powerful phytochemistry in it, we assume that it is medicinal and we should take it. Is that true or false? False. That's right. Do you know marijuana is very medicinal? I do not recommend marijuana. Yeah. Doesn't mean because all plants that have medicinal value are good for us. Like green tea. green tea is medicinal, but it's toxic as well. It has fluoride, it has aluminum, it has tannins that block iron absorption, it knocks out GABA, gamma-aminobutyric acid, makes you think like a lizard, knocks out self-control. Same with marijuana. It will create lesions in the brain. You see brain scans of people on long-term use of marijuana, they look like Alzheimer's. The deterioration that happens in the brain. Okay. Oh, look at that. I'm jumping ahead of myself. Tea or coffee? Tea or coffee have medicinal value, but they're extremely toxic. Do you know caffeine is a drug? Yeah. We should never take caffeine. You see, when you take a drug, according to the high is the low. And the longer you take it, the less the peaks and the deeper the valleys. It's the road to Jericho. You see? So, causes headaches, wakefulness, palpitations of the heart, indigestion, trembling, many other evils. And it eliminates self-control through knocking out gamma-aminobutyric acid. It's interesting. I was at this church one time, a few months ago actually, and I had an anesthetist who was at the back, and he said to me, "It's interesting you talked about GABA because the drugs we use are actually GABA antagonists." And he said, when we're putting people under, he said, people will tell you anything. No inhibition, you see. This is what caffeine does to the brain. Yes. Yes, not one noxious plant was placed in the Lord's great garden, but after Adam and Eve sinned, poisonous herbs sprang up. All tares are sown by the evil one. Every noxious herb is of his sowing, and by his ingenious methods of amalgamation, he has corrupted the earth with tares. You can see that, like, this is a marijuana plant, by the way. But if you look at it, it's very similar to hemp. It's almost identical in looking at it, and then the chemistry of it is almost identical, except you have large amounts of THC in the marijuana that you don't have in the hemp. But if you amalgamate it, and over time you increase the THC, you can see how marijuana could have developed by hybridization. So, don't think all herbs that have medicine are good for us to eat or drink. Okay, how would you know for sure that what you are doing is helping the body? Have you seen these massage therapists that don't touch the body? Have you seen that? No? You seen that? Okay. You know, it's so easy to fool people. It's so easy to fool people. Through what you see. Can I get a volunteer? Can I get a volunteer? Pastor. Okay. All right, Pastor. Okay. Okay, so now what we're going to do, we're going to give you some special formula. Okay, I want you to hold this, and I'm gonna do the same thing. You ready? Okay, here we go. Ready? Go. Amazing stuff. You want to buy it? It's $10 a bottle.
Yeah.
It's magical. It's the water. It's the power of water. It's the power of water. Okay, can anyone figure it out? He was dehydrated, right? See, what happened is, I fooled you. So the first time I did it, and I pushed that down, his brain wasn't ready for it. And so it was easy to knock him off balance because he hadn't had that experience before, and his brain didn't know how to compensate for the micro movements and so on. And so it was easy to pull him over, okay? Although the second time I did it, I pushed more directly down instead of pulling across a little bit, which knocks him off balance even more. So the point is that it's easy to fool people with observation. Amen? So it's easy to fool people with health if they see that it's working. Now, do God's methods work? Yes. They do work, but it doesn't mean that everything that appears to work is really God's method either, right? Does that make sense? For example, you could take a medication for your headache and your headache goes away. Did it work? Seemed to work, right? But did it help you? No. So this is why we need to understand physiology. Because otherwise you'll be taking all kinds of things that, may appear good, right? Like juices or coffee enemas or, electromagnetic massage therapy, invisible to the touch, right? But you've really got to know whether it is God ordained. If you know it's God ordained, then you will always get a good outcome if God is in it. But doesn't mean because it seems to work, appears to work, that it's always of God. Okay, I just want to make that clear. So, I should have given you one of these instead of water, because I think we need water. Okay, I wasn't. But this brings me back to this point, that using plants for medicine is not a substitute for poor lifestyle habits. Okay, so if you're going to eat under the gold notches every day and take some turmeric for the pain, it's not the best approach. Okay, not the best approach. So we use it as an adjunct therapy to a healthy lifestyle. Does that make sense? So don't think because you can just take this pill or this herb or this tea that, that's all you need to focus on. You need to look at the big picture. We need to follow the other laws of health. So we're going to have another break again, but did anyone have any questions? Any questions? Yes. Aloe vera, yes. You can't eat aloe vera, but there are hundreds of different types of aloe vera, and you have to be careful about the skin of aloe vera because it has some tannins in it that can lead to diarrhea. Okay, so aloe vera is very soothing. It's a mucilaginous herb. It's antiviral. It helps protect against inflammation in the GI tract. So it's good for things like colitis, Crohn's, and inflammatory bowel disorders, and even peptic ulcers and things that are where you have the enteric cells that line the GI tract where there is some inflammation, or even in some cases some peptic ulcers, ulceration. If there's some ulceration going on, that's really good to help protect the body. Aloe vera is also very good for the immune system. It's got a lot of things that help with things like antivirin, these little immune-enhancing chemicals that communicate with the white blood cells. It's very good for the skin. It's very good for burns, especially good for burns. If you have some burn, you have aloe vera, you just slice that, get that gel on, and it's one of the best things to cool the skin and to help heal and repair. So it's very good for that. But I'm going to share with you the next one on some herbs that you can use. All right, so we've covered a lot of things that you got to be cautionary about, but I'll share with you those. So unless there's any other questions, we'll take another 10-minute break and we'll come back. Okay? All right, thank you.